Finally, it's time for the Fiesta Bowl. Miami Hurricanes are one victory away from essentially hosting a national championship game. Here's what Miami has to worry about, and here's what the Canes need to do to get it done against the Ole Miss Rebels.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And I'm also doing pregame this week. Double duty on WQAM. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get into all the playoff action. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. On this episode, we'll talk about Miami's keys to victory. We'll talk about the biggest concerns. It's a darn good offense you're facing. And we'll talk about Miami's game plan. And I want Miami to win so we get a happy postcast from our guy Gries, who's going to be right after the game ends. Gries is going to have you guys live reactions on Locked On Canes YouTube and on the audio podcast channels on the Locked On Canes postcast. So, I mean, Gries, first and foremost, man, can you believe we're here, right? I mean, this is a team that we were unsure if they would even get into the playoff on that selection day, and wasn't supposed to beat Texas A&M on the road. Certainly we're not supposed to beat the defending champs in the Cotton Bowl, and now Miami's in the Final Four.
In the Final Four, and it's sweet, and it comes down to one thing, Alex, talent. So as much as you talk about Mario Cristobal, and I want to give him props, because on this playoff run and on this win streak after the SMU game, I feel like Mario has really stepped up his game a lot. He's not stupidly burning timeouts at bad times anymore. I mean, and that's an adjustment that's happened within this season. And I think the play calling has gotten better. So for all the people out there who call me the king of negativity or whatever, I like Alex's nickname for me better, for the record.
Postcast King.
Postcast King. And by the way, it's nice to see you without the bloodshot eyes on American soil with your background again back in the studio. But I just want to say that I want to recognize what Mario's done to improve in game. Like, we know the recruiting's there. I mean, the proof is right there in front of your face. The recruiting's there. I mean, he's as good as anybody in the country recruiting, right? And you know that mindset, that toughness, that domination on the line of scrimmage, that starts with him, that offensive lineman, that son of the immigrants from Cuba, who he talks about how Jimmy Johnson saved him and his brother and his whole family. And, there's a lot to like about Mario Cristobal, but his in-game coaching was not one of them, but he's gotten a lot better with that. So on this run, the coaching has gotten so much better. And another thing about it, Alex, the penalties have gone way down. I love the way those refs, I wish every officiating crew would be forced to watch that Miami-Ohio State game. It was a great game. It was a hard-hitting game. It was a clean game. And there were not flags thrown throughout the course of the game that just impeded the progress of the game. And how nice was it to see a game unfold between two great teams without the officials having such a big impact. And props to Miami for cleaning up their play. And just a great job, Alex, smacking Ohio State in the mouth, smacking Texas A&M in the mouth before that. You could argue that those were the two best defensive teams. Indiana would have an argument that those were the two best defensive teams in the playoffs besides Miami. And Miami just beat the two of them back to back. And so for people like me who have been a little bit down on the offense, who have been saying we need more from Beck, I'm not backing down. I need more from Carson Beck if you're going to win this thing. There's no doubt about it. He needs to go from, and I'll say this, he has gone from a little bit reckless, risk-taker, freewheeling quarterback early in the year, just going to chuck it all over the yard and see what happens, to elite game manager. And he has become an elite game manager. He has. I hate the phrase game manager, however, and I want to see him take that next step from elite game manager to elite playmaker, because he's always been an elite playmaker, but doing it with that elite game management has been something that's eluded him. I'd rather have him just managing games and hand the ball off to number 4 and the rest of those guys back there, Mark Fletcher Jr. But we're going to need Carson Beck to beat somebody with his arm. I can feel it. I know it's coming. We're going to need that to happen like he did against Notre Dame, right? And I want to give him the props for that, like he did against Florida State, right? So I really believe that needs to happen. And I also believe Malachi Toney needs to make big plays within the offense. And you just don't see that type of guy getting shut out. It's one of the problems I have with Dawson. When did you see Ted Ginn Jr. or Desmond Howard or Percy Harvin or our guy, Santana Moss, Roscoe Parrish? When do those guys get shut out? They don't get shut out. And to me, they've tried a lot of ways to get Toney the ball. They've used him, at quarterback, the Malley Cat. They've handed it to him. They've done everything they can on some levels to do it, but they haven't found one that's really worked and busted open a big play. He almost got the punt return against A&M, Alex, but I got those two things out of the way in the beginning because those are the only two possibilities anybody has of beating Miami. I'll make it three. One is Beck starts throwing interceptions again, gets a little carried away. Two is Mario beats himself with in-game coaching and choices and decisions. And number three is we don't get the big play somewhere from someone. Last week it was a pick six.
I think this is a game where they rediscover the big plays because to me, styles make fights. Ole Miss, they're so different from the first two teams that Miami faced in the playoff. They're dangerous in different ways. This one is so much more about the offense and the unique challenges that quarterback Trinidad Chambliss is going to give to Miami. But when it comes to scoring points and picking up yardage, it's a more favorable matchup than the last two. I mean, Ohio State, one of the top defenses in the country, Texas A&M, same thing, and they were very prepared for Malachi Toney, and I think the game plans of these last two opponents was we're going to do whatever we can to make sure number 10 is not the guy who beats us, right? Now, I'm sure Ole Miss will have that same mindset. I just don't think they have the horses defensively to do what Ohio State and Texas A&M were able to do. So I think Malachi is going to have his handprints and fingerprints on this game in more than being a decoy, which was kind of the case against Ohio State. And then obviously there were ups and downs in the Texas A&M game. He did score the game-winning touchdown in that game, but there weren't a whole lot of stats that came with that. But I think he's going to be able to do more in this one. And in terms of Miami's game plan, Gries, I mean, it's been talked about. I mean, you watch a lot of different shows, and they're saying pretty much the same things about this one. Miami would like to turn it into a brawl. Ole Miss would like to turn the game into a track meet. And Miami's got a favorable matchup on paper when it comes to running the football. Ole Miss does not have an elite rushing defense. It's a slightly below average rushing defense. So when you talk about controlling time of possession, you would think with the way Fletcher has been running in the playoffs that Mark Fletcher Jr. is going to be able to move those chains, and Miami's going to be able to limit the amount of time and the amount of plays that Ole Miss's offense have. But I do agree with you in that I think you're going to need to hit some plays through the air. I think this is the type of game where you're going to try to emphasize the run, but you're also going to try to emphasize some downfield plays, play action. So I think this is a game where Carson Beck is going to have more opportunities to connect downfield, and hopefully Miami does that because, again, as good as Miami's defense is, it's probably the best offense you've faced all year. So you're going to have to score some points. You're not going to win this game scoring 10 points the way you did against A&M.
No, and your defense has obviously been the strength of this team all season long with no opponent scoring 30, and we know the deal there, what they've done in the playoffs. It has been absolutely unbelievable what they've done in the playoffs. And Rueben Bain Jr., you see the clips that go on social media after these games, and he was in the locker room. He's not a loud guy. He's a quiet leader on this team. But he said something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, is they're not as hungry as we are. They didn't work like we worked. They didn't feel like we felt. They don't want this as bad as we do. And so for Ohio State, easy for Miami to really get up for that game. Easy for the offensive line to say, oh, yeah, number one defense will show you. Easy for our defensive line to say, oh, Sands picking everybody apart, elite receivers will show you. And Bain and Mesidor by far played their best games of the season, these last two. They're peaking right now. Everybody is on the line of scrimmage for Miami. And those backup defensive ends that played through the injuries this year, they're starting to get better. Lightfoot had a sack in the game against Ohio State. So all that's coming. And then the secondary that was so maligned last year, and rightfully so, all the changes they made coming in. And, you've seen teams these last couple of weeks where you're saying, oh, better not blitz this guy. Oh, better not blitz that guy. These DBs won't hold up. Well, Heatherman hasn't really changed his style all that much. He's still sending a lot of blitzes, and those DBs have more than held their own. Now, against Texas A&M, They did get a lot of passing yards late in the game. Ohio State did too. But when the game was still undecided against both these teams, the Miami secondary won its matchup, or at the very least played even with that great Ohio State receiving core, right? And imagine if Jeremiah Smith had come to Miami, they would have had nothing. So the point being, even the kids that are playing well for Ohio State are from South Florida. So if we keep all those kids home, it'll be like Howard Schnellenberger used to say, the state of Miami. It still holds true all these decades later. But the thing about the Ole Miss offense, you said they want to turn it into a track meet. Alex, let them. Let them turn it into a track meet. You know what? I love that our running game can close it out, and we know that's in our back pocket. If they want to turn it into a track meet, are they better than Malachi Toney and C.J. Daniels, who played in the SEC last year at LSU, and Carson Beck all that time? Are they better than I don't know. I don't think they are, Alex. So my point is, let them turn it into a track meet at times in the game if they want to, because they can't beat us there either. But if we just come out and think we're going to win this game pounding the football like we did against Ohio State, we're sadly mistaken. Ole Miss will put more guys in the box. They're not going to be as arrogant as Ohio State with their scheme. I thought Patricia was arrogant as hell in that game and didn't make adjustments because of it. And I love that his arrogance ended up beating him in the end. I don't think it's going to happen with Ole Miss. Regardless, they've been through a lot with that program. And it's been tumultuous all year. Is he staying? Is he going with Lane Kiffin? And then all this tumultuousness in the playoffs and uncertainty. Nothing's been steady all year, and they've still managed to have the year they've had and win 2 playoff games. So they've got to be feeling bulletproof right now, Alex.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, when we come back, I want to talk keys to victory and predictions. We got the Postcast King with us. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Folks, let's talk about something that most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life, it doesn't just go away and switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rugiet Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rugiet Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rugiet Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. You connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's rugiet.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, and feel ready. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. And make sure if you're an everydayer and you're here every single day, you sign up for the Everydayer Club. The all-access tier gets you exclusive episodes, exclusive newsletters, Discord server, one-on-one text access with me. You can click the link in the show notes below or go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com to join the all-access tier of the Everydayer Club. We got the Postcast King with us, who, of course, Gries is going to be on right after the Fiesta Bowl, Miami and Ole Miss, hopefully breaking down another Miami victory. I'm a little concerned, though, because Miami tends to do their best work when I'm overseas, and I'm back in the States, so I'm a little bit concerned about this one, because good things tend to happen when I'm out. But in terms of Gries, you mentioned the things that Miami cannot allow to happen negatively, but what are your keys to the game? What does Miami have to accomplish to get this dub?
I'll tell you this. I feel like for Miami to win this game, okay, you can't sit there and rest on your laurels, and not that they're going to, but you can't. Keontae Smith talked about it there. Keontae Scott talked about it this week, rather. Keontae Scott talked about it this week in Arizona. He said, we got our chair kicked out from under us, right, with those losses. And now they're starting to get all swollen up again, and you can't start believing that media. You can't start believing you're the best team left in this tournament. You have to keep that same energy, that same chip on your shoulder, that same enthusiasm that you've had for these last couple of games when you have come out and just smashed these 2 teams in the mouth and beaten them to death at the line of scrimmage. That Miami offensive line, I don't know that I've ever seen a Miami, maybe just one just that 2001 with Joaquin Gonzalez and Brian McKinney and those guys. And I don't even know if they were as good as a whole.
Yeah, I'll say I think that group was maybe slightly better in pass pro, but I don't think they were as physical overall.
And they got killed by Ohio State that next year. Romberg and Shirky and all those guys, they did. But and not to denigrate any of them, that's more about how great this group is. And what Mass kicks ass, right? And that's true. We got so many big guys up front. So Miami has to keep controlling the line of scrimmage. But when you have the team speed of an Ole Miss defense and you have an SEC defense that's been really good all year, you mentioned Ole Miss not as good against the run as the other two teams we just faced. Well, different conference, different opponents, all kinds of things there, and elite backs all the way across both those conferences. I'm not saying that Ole Miss is going to be better than either of those two teams, but I would not, if I were Miami, I would not be sitting there thinking they're not going to be, right? You have to game plan for this. Every single game means so much more. You're one win away from playing for a national title in your own backyard, which is what all the old great teams used to do in the Orange Bowl, right? How many times did we win one or play for one in the OB, and now it'll be Hard Rock Stadium. It'll be a different place, but same result. So for Miami to achieve that result, I believe Carson Beck has to have a big game. He's been magnificent game manager. He's been fantastic not turning the ball over. He's made big throws when he's had to. Not many of them have been down the field, but he's made big throws when he's had to. And he's done the things that he's needed to do to keep his team in position to win as the leader, as the quarterback, which is something so many of us underestimate when we're talking about interceptions and yardage and completion percentage and things like that. But I do believe Carson Beck's going to have his best game of the playoffs and maybe of the season to beat Ole Miss. I do believe that. I've believed that from the beginning. This game, for sure, the next game, if not this one. But he's going to have to get into that bag and make some plays. I think he can do it. I've said this every week with you, Alex. I still believe he can do it. I know that our running game will run all over them. I know that. They have no chance to stop the running game, and we can use it to establish and we can use it to put it away. But I do believe Beck in the passing game are going to have to make a big play or two, because I don't know that you can bank on another pick six or a punt return from Malachi Toney. You're going to have to get it from the offense this week or next, and probably both. I think we're going to get it. I do. You and I have been dead on these two games. I was completely dead on with Texas A&M. I said we were going to shut them out. It was 10-3. Ohio State, I believe I said, what did I say, 24-10? 24-14, I said.
Pretty close, yeah.
We both were. My point is we were both just a couple points off on that game. So we're right there in step and in tune with this team, Alex, you and I. And I think with this one, it's going to be tougher. Hurricane fans, I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I don't think it's a game where you can win it just on the line of scrimmage like you did the last 2 weeks. And I don't mean to take away from what the DBs and receivers and running backs did, but they won those two games on the line of scrimmage. And I don't think you're going to do that against Ole Miss. I think they're going to put points on the board, maybe more than any other team has this season. And I think Miami's going to have to score 30 to win this game. And I think it's going to rest on the shoulders of number 11. And I think number 11 comes through. I'm going to go Miami 34 and a late touchdown. They pull away. Miami 34, Ole Miss 20.
I like it. Yeah, and I'll say, like, defensively, and of course, I trust Miami's defense. I trust Corey Heatherman to game plan for this one, and he's done all year long, especially in the playoffs. But QB contain to me is the most important thing. To try to keep Chambliss in a pocket, to try to collapse that pocket around him, because he's so dangerous when he gets outside and extends plays. So QB contain is a big one for me. Talked about controlling the pace of play on offense, and just try to take plays and possessions away from Ole Miss, because they run over 74 plays per game on average, 11th in the country, and they're going to try to get their hurry up going and tire Miami's defensive line out. So force third and longs if you can, because the third and ones and third and twos can kill you. So try to keep them at 3rd and 8, and then you can get your pass rush going. Outside of that, Gries, it's a lot of the obvious stuff. Take care of the football. Try to win the takeaway margin. I mean, Miami's been one of the best in the country when it comes to forcing turnovers. I think you could maybe not necessarily a pick six because you can't always count on that. But
Yeah, right.
I think they could force a late turnover because if you can get Ole Miss behind and Chambliss is pressing late in the game and he's looking downfield, I could see Miami getting one of those game-sealing INTs from Bryce Fitzgerald or Jacoby Thomas or Keontae Scott. I mean, the DBs have played so well this year. So,
Huge.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty similar to you. I've been saying 31-24 Miami. I do think Miami's going to eclipse that 30 mark in this one. And, God willing, we can punch our ticket to Miami Gardens, Florida, and Hard Rock Stadium for that championship game. It would be awesome.
Unbelievable.
Let people know again, Gries, where they can find the postcast and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing about Chambliss.
Sure.
This kid was a D2 quarterback a year ago. Didn't start until the third game. Was almost an afterthought coming into camp this year. And look what he's doing. So never give up on yourself. The moral of the story, right? I mean, and look at Cam Ward, another example, a shining example. No one even knows the name, or even we all had a fact check that the first college they listed him at even existed. And then look at him. He becomes the number one pick in the draft. With all these offensive coaches drooling right now to be the next head coach for Cam Ward. So it can happen for you. And it can happen for these Miami Hurricanes. They've righted the ship, Alex. They've turned things around. I'm excited for the postcast on Saturday. And I'll obviously be right after the game, live right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world, number 11 channel, by the way, out of 200 plus here. Locked On Canes, thanks to my guy, Alex Donno. But we'll be live on YouTube right after the game. And then afterwards, we upload, you download. Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Stitcher, Podbean, Roku. And maybe, we're not sure because he's got double duty. He's almost always there. Maybe a guest appearance from the man himself, Alex Donno. And we can celebrate another win, Alex. We just need one more. Now, I don't even want to say this, but I'm going to. The track record in the desert has not been great for the Miami Hurricanes. The history in the deserts of Arizona has been a graveyard of dreams for the Miami Hurricanes, from the 86 Fiesta Bowl with Jimmy Johnson and Vinny Testaverde, Ohio State, the 02-03. Arizona beat us 29-0 one year in the Fiesta Bowl when our guys were done playing for the year, didn't get to play for a chip, Ray Lewis's freshman year. So it has not been good in Arizona for the Miami Hurricanes. I think they have one win here.
Yeah, I'm hoping because those were all at Sun Devil Stadium, I think. So I'm hoping the venue change creates a different environment for
and no bad weather for Beck. Perfect, and then if it doesn't rain for the championship game, he'll go through all of it with no bad weather. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm beating up on him, Alex. I like Carson Beck a lot. I keep pulling for him to just have that one big Beck game that we've all been waiting for. I think we're going to need it. It makes me nervous that we're going to need it. But I have not given up on Beck in this offense becoming much more explosive. That's the only thing missing from this team right now, is that explosiveness on offense. That's it.
I'm telling you, we're going to get it. We're going to get it in this game. I think the matchup calls for it, and I have faith in Beck. I think what he's done the last couple of weeks is taken what the defenses have given to him and just not needing to be more than a game manager. I think he can be more than that. So we appreciate everybody for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're so excited for this one. Make sure you check out my dude at @JimGrease_ on X. Check him out on the postcasts. All about the U, my friends. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Canes, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the number one Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.